And good evening, and once again, welcome to the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. And it's Monday night, so you know what that means. That means it's time for this week's full episode of New Comics, bitches! For those of you who took the time to watch last night's my farewell to iVampire, thank you, and that includes Josh Fialkov, who did at least stop by and at least skim through parts of it, at least to get to the part where, because those of you who did watch may remember I did ask the question, okay, well, where is the song from issue 3, the title of that issue being Numb, where does that fall into his kind of 80s music loving category? And Josh Fialkov tweeted me today and actually revealed the source of that song, and it wasn't Numb by U2, it was Numb by the Pet Shop Boys. So there we have it. We have the answer from the man himself. So that was very, very exciting. Of course, the one thing did truly fucking suck today was that what I consider to be the best of all of the comic book sites, which is Comics Alliance, was taken down by AOL today. Or was actually, I think it was technically maybe yesterday or the day before, I'm not sure. I think they might have even said Friday, because there were no updates from C2E2. There was no really exciting news to come out of C2E2, I thought, so I'm not going to be really talking about any of that. That was the one place, that was the one site where I spent the most time of all of the comic sites that I visit pretty much on a daily basis. I go to CBR, I go to Newsarama. And Newsarama, let's face it, kind of sucks, I mean, comparatively speaking. But, Comics Alliance was, at least to me, was the one place where it felt like, okay, well, this is where, comic book lovers can really come and just... it doesn't have to be just all about the comics. It doesn't have to be all about the, it can be the ideas behind comics. It could be interviews, but not like, your typical kind of Newsarama, your kind of, your very specific interviews. They can be, they can be long and outstretched. They deal with certain controversies. They deal with certain issues. A lot of people think that that's just there's a very liberal bias to the site, and that's probably true, but who fucking cares, because they happen to be right about most of the stuff that they touch on. When they're talking about the absence of of African Americans and females in the comics world as far as creators. These are things that are important, and it's things that most of these other kind of fanboy pandering sites lack. So I was just really upset about that today. That really kind of brought the whole day down. This will be my attempt to really get kind of an abbreviated segment out. Because there are a lot of books to get through. There's definitely one drop that I'll be talking about. Possibly more. It really depends. But let's get to it. So, and there are 3 picks of the week. One I talked about last night. And I'm sure that you'll be surprised to learn that was not actually the pick of the week, surprisingly enough. Well, to be fair, on any other week that didn't have such an incredibly strong issue that I'll talk about, of course, at the end, this is, that would have been absolutely a plus book of the week, and even might, again, still might be just on the merit of it being its final issue. But as far as the story that really hit home the most, that just really buried the needle on just great and very powerful storytelling, we'll get into that in a bit. But we're going to go Avengers crazy here for a bit as we start with Marvel, of course, as per usual. So we're going to start with New Avengers number 5. Now, basically, we have here Black Swan is kind of recounting her life as it has been, basically the tale of her survival on her home planet as she discusses the beginning of the universe and basically the birth of Rabum Alal, which is the Great Destroyer, which is causing all of these incursions that are destroying these other Earths. This is a really, really, really heavy exposition issue. And the only respite that we get from all of the exposition from Black Swan and from the various characters, all the big brains asking her questions and so on and so forth, and just getting to the meat of how big of a threat that the Great Destroyer is. Basically, the only respite that we get is this, it's 5 pages. It's 5 pages of silence, basically, of the battle that was forecast in the previous issue between these New Avengers and Terex. And it was something that I was so hoping was going to be much bigger, but again, 5 pages is all we got of that. And it's all silent. And it works really well, but I felt like this issue could have easily have been just that battle. But Hickman I think he just wants to steamroll ahead with the big head, with the big brain ideas. And that's where this book came to kind of a screeching halt as far as any kind of momentum was concerned. The book is just weighted down by all the big ideas and all the big, massive universe-changing things. I mean, because basically the crux of the story here that we get is that Black Swan basically explains that there is no way to defeat the Great Destroyer. The only option that you have, really, is to destroy another world and just wait. And eventually, the Great Destroyer will come to whatever Earth that it wants to, and it will destroy it. And that's it. That's the only, that's the only outcome that she sees. But of course, being surrounded by some of the biggest brains, this is not necessarily including Namor, who obviously is a smart guy, but he's always a bit of a dick to everybody around him, and has never really been one for his super science ideas. He's kind of if anybody's, if it's anybody, he's kind of like the thug of this group. He's the one that will always charge in kind of fists first. And I love the character. I love Namor as a character, but he's a guy that I kind of love to hate because he is such a prick. And it'll never happen, but I do wish that sometime during this run that Black Panther would actually kill him, because that would be awesome. Because obviously when, corrupted by the Phoenix Force and everything like that, when he laid waste to Wakanda and killed many of its people, I think that would be a good solution to the dickishness of Namor. But anyway, you know, Epting provides some great art, which is really one of this book's saving graces. I get that Hickman is trying to build something very, very big, but, and here's where we're also going to talk about Avengers number 10, which also came out, which is basically that the garden that was, the seeds of the garden that were planted by Ex Nihilo are starting to burst in Regina, Saskatchewan, which is not too far away from where my beloved bride grew up. And yes, it's spelled Regina, and it is pronounced Regina. Yeah, we know. So get your jokes out of the way. So basically, Omega Flight, who I remember as being a much cooler team when it was, I remember, I know that US Agent was part of it, Beta Ray Bill was a huge part of it, I think that Vindicator was part of it, or there was a new Vindicator. You had, what's-his-face that Bendis created in New Avengers, the guy that was kind of just like the walking bomb. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he was a character, you know, he's the one that killed Alpha Flight, and hence the creation of this Omega Flight. So now it's all these different characters, Validator, a new box, Wendigo, basically taking the place, I'm assuming, of Sasquatch, and basically they're all, with the exception of Validator, who is wearing kind of the more traditional Alpha Flight kind of black and white, you know, with the little maple leaf here, are annihilated. And agents from Canada's Department H, which, if we harken back to you know, Wolverine's origins, that's where he comes from, at least, you know, on his Canadian side. And the Avengers go to Regina to try and find out what the hell is going on, and Validator seems to be, she seems to hold part of the key of what this is all about. And again, Hickman here, seeming to just get too clever for his own good, it gives us, you know, some really dense ideas, some really, you know, again, big ideas, these big universe expanding ideas that just don't make a whole lot of sense right now, but like a lot of Hickman's work, will make more sense when the trade comes out. And that's basically my big problem with both New Avengers and Avengers. Hickman's writing them both. You know, these are kind of flagship titles here. And don't get me wrong, I love Jonathan Hickman. I think he's a great writer. But when it comes to the big ideas, he lets the big ideas take too much hold over the narrative of the book. And like what happened with FF, which is why I just kind of totally zoned out of that book, it was just, it was too much confusion, there was too much going on in each individual issue that never really seemed to lead anywhere, except to the next issue. You know, it's serialized, but a lot of them just seem like one-offs, and, you know, people will come from here and people come from there, and things happen, and none of them seem to really make any kind of cohesive sense until you read the arc as a whole. And to me, there has to be something that the book can give you along the way to keep up that level of, okay, I really need to keep reading this because it's really interesting and it's going somewhere, and I can tell that it's going somewhere, but I'm just not getting that here. I'm getting that, yeah, it's going somewhere, but it's not really making me care enough along the way. And it's a shame. It's just a fucking shame, is really what it is. Because, you know, I give both of these books 3 out of 5 for both New Avengers number 5 and Avengers number 10. Mike Deodato does the art in full for this issue of Avengers, but it seems really rushed. Like, again, because this is, you know, the 10th issue, and we've had, you know, all of these different artists. You know, we started off with Jerome Pena, and then we went to Andy Kubert, and then we went to Dustin Weaver, and now we're with Deodato, and his art just doesn't seem to have the same kind of finesse that it normally does. Some of his faces look a little bit strange, like they're just a little bit askew, which is disappointing to see from an artist of Mike Deodato's caliber, because I know that he's so much better than this. And obviously proven over the course of his run on New Avengers, which is where I think, you know, I mean, that was, you know, that was probably the best Avengers title that was out at the time. I would say pretty easily the best Avengers title that was out at the time. But anyway, moving on into more Avengers, we have Uncanny Avengers number 7, which we have, basically it opens up with this, you know, the son of Apocalypse, Genocide, is being, you know, and the rest of the Horsemen are there to kind of receive an offering from a Celestial. And then here come the Apocalypse twins. And one of them is wielding Yarn. Basically the big honkin' axe that Thor was wielding in the previous issue, where it was all, you know, way back, you know, centuries and centuries ago. And, you know, this obviously, you know, it really brings home the message of, yeah, Thor fucked up in a big way. And now some of that fuck up is going to take root in the present. But we have basically the Celestial is killed. That's a really hard thing to do, but the Apocalypse twins do kill the Celestial, and, you know, everybody's just saying, well, there's going to be hell to pay, and, you know, and basically the twins are both like, you know, I sincerely hope so. And then we go back to Earth, where Nick and, I should say Marcus Johnson, Nick Fury, and Maria Hill are kind of discussing what has happened in the issue before this, which is, of course, where Rogue killed the Grim Reaper, and Alex has made the decision that Rogue needs to be sidelined for now. This is something that does not sit well with her, but of course it's okay with Scarlet Witch and with Wasp, but does not sit well with Thor or Wolverine. And so you have, obviously, and again, Alex kind of stepping in and say, you know, we're not benching you per se. We want you to we want you to kind of stay out of the field for a while and you know, investigate Magneto. And so you have this kind of strife still existing within the group, even though it's this group that, you know, out of AVX is supposed to be coming together. It's really supposed to be making a statement about humans and mutants coexisting, you know, as, you know, and that these two teams can coexist and can coexist harmoniously. And then we have some moments with, we have a moment where Janet, we have this moment with Scarlet Witch and Simon, where Simon, you know, is basically telling her, you know, that he loves Wanda so much that he came back from the dead for her, and she rebuffs him, says that she can't have his romantic love. She loves him as a brother now. and this does not sit well with Simon. But you know, and then on the other hand, we have Janet and Alex. And Janet is very much putting the moves on Alex, and Alex wants to rebuff as best as he possibly can because he just doesn't want another complication. Janet, honestly, just kind of seems like she's looking for something of just a kind of liaison to just kind of remind herself that she's alive, because obviously she's seen part of her future, and part of her future involves apparently becoming a Deathlock. So, and she's died once already here. So, and then we go Big Red Alert. Sunfire and Captain America are up on Sword's base with Agent Brand. I love Agent Brand. And they are witnessing the kind of film, if you will, of the Celestial getting killed. And, and of course, both Thor and Logan recognize Yarnbjorn. And, here comes a Celestial cruiser. And it is ready to ram Sword's base. So everybody's getting the hell out of there as quickly as is possible, but Cap and Sunfire seem to be stuck. But, Sunfire gets Cap into one of the escape pods and gets him the hell out of there, and Sunfire's just there because he will not run from danger. And so, kablooey. Their orbiting platform is destroyed and just is raining fire from the sky. And that's, we see Thor, getting ready to get into battle here, charging at the explosion. And that's kind of where we leave off. It's kind of like, but I will tell you, this is progressing better than I'd hoped. I mean, Remender obviously is bringing a lot of his leftovers from Uncanny X-Force into this book. He's bringing a lot of those same ideas here, a lot of the same characters here. And of course, we do have also the threat of, Red Skull's S-Men are still killing mutants throughout New York, and that's becoming a bad thing. Obviously, I mean, I don't mean to make light of that, but, it's becoming, it's still a threat. And it still does need to be shut down. But this story, I get the feeling that it's building to something big, but it's also giving us what Hickman's stories are lacking right now. Is it gives us some impetus. It gives me a reason to keep reading on, and it's like, wow, there's some really interesting stuff going on here, and there's enough human moments in it, and enough character moments in it that really don't feel like they're cold and calculated and just very kind of dry, which Hickman has a tendency to do. So this was, and you have Daniel Acuña's art, and it's terrific. It looks great. Some of these, this almost in an abstract kind of sense. It's such a weird art style, but I just really, really like it. So this was a really good book, very solid. 4 out of 5 for Uncanny Avengers number 7. Except not totally with it, but more so than with some of the other Avengers titles. Anyway, on to Deadpool number 8. Basically, we have Wade and Agent Preston beginning in Deadpool's mind, which, of course, not exactly the safest place to be, but certainly an interesting place to be. And she wants to see her family and see how they're doing without her, and they actually pop in. Wade visits the little boy, and of course that kind of goes badly. And just as Deadpool is about to leave, he is visited by Vetus, the demon that was exchanging, or that was stealing and pilfering souls from the great issue of the previous, of issue 7, where we had that great throwback to the the late 70s, early 80s era of Marvel Comics, and that was so awesome. And basically, Vetus gives Deadpool a list of 5 people that need to die, and Michael the Necromancer's name is on this list. Now, if Deadpool can kill 4 of the 5 people on this list, then Vetus will leave Michael the Necromancer alone. And I don't know if this was revealed before, but it actually turns out that it was Vetus who gave Michael the power to raise the dead presidents. And we get this, and we get an idea forms in Wade's head that one of these bodies is, along with Michael, one of these bodies, that one of the people that he kills for Vetus, he can transplant Preston's soul and mind into that person's body. And of course, the first target is someone who this kind of Guido kind of character in New Jersey that has exchanged his soul essentially for invulnerability. Of course, he cannot be killed for as long as he draws breath. Well, Deadpool's got a solution for that. And, there are just so many funny moments here. But the book ends kind of abruptly with this rather strange and dark turn. But it's as these mysterious people start, they KO DP, and they start to extract blood and try to get organs out of his body in this very short period of time. And for what reason, we don't know, but we know it's, that these mysterious people are working for somebody else. And whether or not it's, to gain some of his mutant abilities, to stay alive and be invulnerable, we don't quite know. But it could lead to some very interesting places, as we have, kind of a new subplot here. Now, I'm missing Tony Moore as artist. That is one of the unfortunate things that this book is now lacking. But if nothing else, the new artist, whose name escapes me, is just fine. But it's really, Jerry Duggan, Brian Posehn, still bringing the funny in a fast and furious way. I mean, the stuff with just almost every sequence has something that is truly laugh-out-loud moments. I mean, particularly, there's so many great lines that Deadpool has when he's in Jersey. I mean, it's just awesome. But what is also important about Duggan and Posehn is that they're really good storytellers. And they know how to tell a story efficiently, they know how to tell it well and smartly, and to develop the book as it goes along, always introducing some element that gives the book a little bit more of a boost. And I know that I kind of made Matt, Agent 42Q, angry when I implied that Deadpool isn't, going to be one of those titles that, is going to be a truly brilliant, erudite, and, a read that is, that has a great deal of gravitas. And I still don't really see that happening, but, Duggan and Posehn, I think they have enough affection for the character and for the medium to really, if they wanted to tell a story like that. So, I don't see two comedians abandoning the funny anytime soon, but I do see them perhaps in some way in the not too distant future developing a story that really is something that is more emotionally based. And I'll be looking forward to that. But for right now, as long as they still keep bringing the funny, I'm still coming back. So this was a pretty solid 4.5 out of 5 for Deadpool number 8. Wolverine and the X-Men, number 28. This one I did read because, you know, it's Aaron, and despite what other people have been saying, I've actually been really liking Ramon Perez's art on this arc. But basically we have the kind of, you know, not the final, but, you know, the climactic confrontation between Dog and Wolverine. And basically Logan sees what these kids are indeed capable of. And, you know, obviously the whole lesson has gone south, you know, once Dog stepped in and started changing the rules. But, you know, we have, you know, this book does treat us to some really terrific moments, like when we get a little bit of a reveal of how iBoy can really use his abilities in a positive and cool way, as he starts, you know, making, you know, because he can see everywhere. So that obviously is, you know, I mean, just having eyes all over his body isn't enough. You know, he has to be able to use those eyes, and use them he does. We get, of course, you know, some, you know, terrific moments from Shark Girl and, you know, from Quentin Quire, and of course there's Glob Herman, who finally, you know, kind of reveals his true colors here as he, you know, defects from the group to go over to the Hellfire Academy, courtesy of a trip from Sauron. But he had been told that he was going to be expelled anyway, because, you know, Wolverine, you know, as we see, he has set a course for each and all of the of these students, as we've seen before, and we see that still here as well. You know, Dog basically, you know, gets not a smackdown, but, you know, not in a physical way, and even gets saved by Quentin Quire from a bullet going right between his eyes, just to really show, well, who's the better man here, and, you know, who are the better people, and ultimately it's not Dog. And so he blinks himself out and goes back to wherever he came from to find himself getting beaten the shit out of by his older self once again, you know, being told that you will be the greatest Logan that will have ever lived. This is a solid conclusion to this arc, which has been pretty tepid. All the bits with Dog and Logan kind of were like, you know, none of it had me interested, so I just didn't roll with it like I normally would. So this was just, again, kind of a, meh. You know, that whole part of it was very meh, but the students coalescing, that was really exciting to watch. And, you know, it gave me kind of this glow, if you will. I felt really good about where this book was going. So, you know, aside from the Dog Logan stuff, this was a really strong issue. Again, Aaron, you know, knows how to tell a story, and I like Ramon Perez's art on this arc a lot, I'll be honest. But, you know, ultimately just didn't kind of really bring it home like we've been used to Aaron doing. So this was a 3.5 out of 5 for X-Men, for Wolverine and the X-Men number 28. It's solid, you know. It's a good book, but again, I think that they could have done away with some of the distractions here. But again, without those distractions, what would we have gotten? Scarlet Spider number 16. It is a new arc that begins as everybody hits the rodeo. And hey, it's Houston. What are you going to do? Uh, and it's the one time where everybody can go and, you know, dress up like cowboys and everything like that. And of course, Kane wants none of this. And he is definitely getting some fawning over by Annabelle. And it takes Armadillo, formerly supervillain, kind of superhero, but he was fired from the Rangers, the initiative supergroup that was birthed in Texas that we saw other elements of earlier on in this book. And he is busted into the rodeo to reclaim his one true love, who is marrying a handsome rodeo star, or is about to be engaged to one. And he is drunk off of his ass, and it does provide for some very fun storytelling. There is a bit of discomfort in this particular issue where we have kind of the big hulking ex-boyfriend that shows up for Annabelle, you know, because Kane kind of rebuffs her, because he knows that there is this monster inside of him, and anybody that gets too close to him is in too much danger, and he can't allow anybody into his life to be close to and to love him in the way that he feels that he is unworthy of. And so, but it is Armadillo ultimately that does turn the tide here, as, you know, Scarlet Spider looks, you know, he fights him, but ultimately it's Armadillo who just kind of, he just turns into a total sad sack, but does actually end up reclaiming his love, and this spurs Kane to action, seeing that that even someone as potentially as monstrous as Armadillo can be worthy of love. And so that's when we get the moment with the big smooch between Kane and Annabelle, and of course the big punch against the hulking ex-boyfriend, who, you know, is very possessed. You know, you get the whole thing. So that part I didn't care for. And then in the first page we are introduced to a letter that has come from Julia Carpenter to Kane, but it's addressed to a K. Parker at the hotel, and so nobody knows who, you know, because Kane hasn't really taken a last name, and at least not to my knowledge anyway, especially not the name Parker. But he is, you know, this letter basically is saying that she was wrong, and that they are all in massive, massive danger, and they need to get away from her. Who the her is, we don't know, but we may have a hint of that at the end of this issue, as one of our characters does maybe reveal a little bit about themselves. And of course we do get a portent of more bad things to come, as who is at the rodeo but looks to be Kraven and his daughter. And, you know, and Kraven just merely says, soon. Again, just a really solid outing from Chris Yost and Koi Pham here. It's just, you know, there's the art is terrific. It's a really fun issue, and I'm loving Araceli. She's just so damn cute in this issue. She's kind of like, if you will, you know, kind of like, you know, in this issue, she's kind of like Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. It's just, everything is just this like endless source of entertainment for her. And she's exploring or discovering some new abilities. You know, her psychic abilities seem to keep growing and growing. But again, the her is the big question. That, you know, the book does kind of end on this really strange note, but, you know, again, these things of, you know, this idea of things to come is, you know, again, very strong, really entertaining. It's just a really well done issue. So I mean, aside from the one pretty, just kind of very, that very cliched, ex-boyfriend thing that I just didn't care for at all. This is a very, very solid issue. 4 out of 5 for Scarlet Spider number 16. On to the Independents, and we'll start with, well, there's only one from Dark Horse this week, and that is Morning Glories number 26. Or, I'm sorry, excuse me, Angel and Faith number 21. Sorry, I almost skipped ahead there. So basically, the final arc of this series begins in this issue. I don't want this series to end. This is like the fucking show ending. It's like, Buffy gets 7 seasons, even when it has one incredibly weak one in season 6. And we have Angel that had 5 really, really good, 4 really, really, really good seasons and 1 brilliant season. And it just, now this book is getting the axe, and Buffy, I'm sure, and its mediocrity will continue on. Because I'm not reading it, as you know, until someone replaces Andrew Chambliss for either permanently or for a very long time. I'm not going to be returning to that issue, to that series. I'm tired of his I'm tired of his not understanding the characters. But that's not going on here. Basically, we have Angel, Faith. Spike exits here because he does get the call from Buffy that Dawn is in the hospital. But none of them know who Dawn is, because, I don't know if this has something to do specifically with the Seed of Magic being broken, but none of the other group remember Dawn, because that is obviously how it was originally created in Buffy. When Dawn came to life, everybody had a memory of Dawn for her whole life, and now the people in the periphery don't remember Dawn. So, but we have Angel, Faith, Alasdair, Lavinia, and Sophronia are all basically, they're preparing to bring Rupert Giles back to life. They have his mind, they have his soul, they have his body, thanks to Igon. And unfortunately for them, Alasdair's, his great kind of collection of really, really important magical artifacts that many of which would need to be sacrificed in this particular ritual to bond Giles' soul and body together, have not yet attracted the attention of Whistler, Pearl, and Nash, who, of course, Whistler's plan to bring magic back to the world, back to Earth, involves killing billions of people. Because, Whistler's still acting as kind of an agent of the powers that be, and, as their kind of representative, if you will, that he intends to restore balance to the worlds of, to magic. It's completely gone, but, obliterating, 1/3 of the Earth's population will help to bring it back. But of course, once the ritual begins is, of course, when, because Alasdair has basically, he is accused here of being alongside the that he might be working in tandem with Whistler, because he's been able to keep all of these things, but he actually has, what it turns out to be, has a shielding spell that unfortunately is one of the things it seems they have to sacrifice for, again, this bonding spell to work. And you have, you know, again, this battle between, you know, Pearl and Nash and Whistler versus Angel and Faith. And, you know, things seem to be going one way. It seems to turn a little bit, but they have, you know, they have pilfered enough of the magical artifacts to help start their plan in motion, even, you know, or to get even further in their plans. And then, but we have this very dramatic ending where it's like, oh, what just happened? What's going to happen? What will happen? I don't know. We have to wait until the next issue. I am so mad that this book is coming to an end. And this arc is called What You Need, or What You Want, Not What You Need. Which, at least to me, you know, when I first read that, it seems to be a play on the reversal of You Can't Always Get What You Want by the Stones. But it is very much about that, because what we have here with this story that they're telling is that everybody, all of the characters, have a very personal investment in what's going on in the story that seems to throw all caution to the wind on any developments that could arise from out of this, and it is solely about getting just what they want for the moment, for the time being, and that everything is done kind of selfishly. Angel wants Giles back because this is someone that he killed while he was still Twilight. And Faith wants Giles back because there was a future there for the two of them. That Giles and Faith, they had a mission. And obviously, you know, Alistair wants to keep all of his artifacts, but is willing to part with them because Giles was a friend. And even though he doesn't think this is a good idea, he'll still go along with it. And of course, you know, Lavinia and Sophronia, they are, you know, they're in it because Giles is their nephew, or their great-nephew. And, of course, Pearl and Nash just seem to want to fight and get revenge and just constantly hound the shit out of Angel and Faith, and Whistler wants to give magic back to the world no matter what the cost. Everything in this book is about something that they want and even think that they need, but deep down they know that it's just for selfish purposes, even Whistler. So it's, Christus Gage and Rebecca Isaacs, they are spot on in this issue. They are really strong. It's a really dense read. There's a lot of dialogue, but none of it feels so terribly expository that it's overwrought. It is a tad long, and I know that's strange for me to say, because some of it is a little too heavy, but they are ultimately wrapping this book up. So the one, I guess, the only kind of slight fault that I would have with this book is that it seems that they might be kind of rushing things, even though it is long, because they have a larger story to tell here. A great cliffhanger here, because we don't know what's coming next, and just a really terrific issue, and just so bummed that this book is ending soon. But 4.5 out of 5 to Angel and Faith, number 21. So now on to Image and on to Morning Glories, number 26. And here we have the return of Casey Blevins, who is obviously very absent during the latter third of Season 1. This is now the first issue of Season 2. Now, of course, most of you, I'm sure, noticed that got it. This was only $1, and it was 26 pages of story. So again, you know, Nick Spencer and Joe Eisma living up to their promise that they will never fuck you over as far as your money is concerned. I mean, they will always have, you know, this is not a title that is ever going to be anything less than you are going to get what you're paying for. And hats off to them, because this could easily backfire, but it's not. So I mean, you know, it's $1.99 less than any book anywhere near that size at the minimum. So, but this book is so, this particular issue is a great introduction to this second season, because it really sets up Casey again as being kind of our main character, our focal character. But what the hell is going on here? Because she seems to be at a dinner with Abraham, and she seems to be much older, even though she's only still Ike's age. But Abraham knows that Ike is still kind of, he's like 6 years old. And so it's like time and space and brain melting with this issue. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? You know, I mean, there's all these sorts of portents and hints and, major shifts that may be occurring in the already pre-existing narrative. And again, where are they going? What are they doing? What is going to happen next? What is this reveal of this teacher here what is going on? And why do I love this book so much? That answer is so easy. Because it just keeps sucking you in. I mean, it's just like, even if this issue were shit, and it's not, Joe Eisma does some fantastic artwork here, as always. I mean, this is a guy that really, this is, again, we talk about it a lot, I talk about it a lot, the perfect marriage. Art, writing, Eisma and Spencer. Brilliant together. Apart, it's not so much lesser, because I know that Spencer can do some great stuff. He can do some not so great stuff. Obviously, Bedlam is a big winner. He has his Superior Foes of Spider-Man series coming out, which I'm really looking forward to. But, these two together are at their best. Now, admittedly, I haven't seen a whole lot of Eisma's other work on this title yet, or on any other title. So, to be honest, I've never seen him anywhere else but Morning Glories. But that's fine. As long as he does Morning Glories, I'll be happy, because he does it so well. Each character, each facial expression, each movement, everything has such focus and definition and expressiveness, and I love it. And, just all these pages of silence and panels of silence, it's like, what is happening here? There's no answers, and you want them, and you know that you're not going to get them anytime soon. So it's just like, just fuck it, man. Let it roll over your tongue and let it play out, because this issue was terrific. I loved this reintroduction to Casey Blevins and this kind of whatever that she is now, wherever she is now, and these places that she's going to and what she's doing. There's no way. I mean, it's like, you have to read it for yourself to understand what's going on, and even then you will not understand what's going on, and that's fine. As long as you're on board with Morning Glories, this is an issue that will ultimately be very satisfying for you. So 4.5 out of 5 for Morning Glories number 26. On to Dynamite, which features a drop. Finally, I'm coming to my senses here. The Shadow, number 12. I'm not even going to go into this title. Victor Gischler is a talented writer, and if this were any other character, I would say this is probably a 4 out of 5. There's good art in this book. The story is well told, but it's not the fucking Shadow. Okay? It's not. And I want to tweet Victor Gischler and ask him what the fuck he thinks he's doing. Because he doesn't deserve to be writing this title right now. He doesn't deserve it. And if anybody at Dynamite saw this, really looked at it, and said, you know, this is not the Shadow, they might understand, but it's not the Shadow. You know, I'm not the biggest Shadow guy on the face of the planet. You know, I don't know nearly as much as some other people know about him, but I know a fuckload more than Victor Gischler does. Believe you me. And this is not the Shadow. Not in any way, shape, or form. This is a, you know, again, this is more of a kind of freewheeling pulp hero rather than a very serious, very, you know, ruthless pulp anti-hero. You know, it's basically like if you took the Punisher and you started writing him like Daredevil, but gave him the guns and everything still. It wouldn't work. It would never work. And that's what nobody seems to understand about what the people at Dynamite don't seem to understand about what Gischler's doing in this title. He's killing it. He's killing it. He's burying it 6 feet deep because it's dead to me right now. Until it gets a new writer, it's gone. It's off my list. Thank God that Matt Wagner is at least doing his thing on Shadow Year 1. That brings us to Masks, number 6. Again, we are pounded into oblivion by shifts in time and place from hero to hero to hero, but at least they seem to be converging all in one direction. They seem to all be heading towards one place. And that seems to be somewhat good news, but we have this long kind of, you know, this very expository issue in which we are treated to this mystery villain with just the kind of cloth over his face, and you know, he's wearing a white suit and everything like that. And he's talking about how, you know, how he was able to create the Justice Party, that he leads the Justice Party, but who is this guy? Well, since this is 6 issues out of 8, it would probably be a good idea to let us know now. But no, Chris Robinson apparently wants to go into a different direction here as far as just, again, continuing to browbeat us with this relentless, you know, well, these characters are here, and these characters are there, and here are these characters. And what happened to the Spider? We don't know. But at least I will give it to maybe somebody out there heard my my cries of disbelief and my aggravation with this fucking title, and at least gave us a cover that gives the name of each of the characters that are playing a part in this series. So at least we know, yeah, okay, well, this is Black Terror, and this is Green Llama, and this is, you know, whoever. But that's the farthest that it gets into, you know, here's Black Bat, and so on and so forth. But this was just another very irritating issue. It looks great. I mean, Dennis Calero's art on it is terrific, and Chris Robinson really is the guy that should be writing the Shadow right now, because he writes the Shadow here extremely well. You know, this is one guy who gets who that character is. So I'm hoping that when this is, you know, because I can't quit this issue. I can't quit this series. Unfortunately, I can't fucking quit it. I mean, if I had been smart about this, I would have just ended up getting it in trade, because it would have been so much less frustrating, and I am, you know, kicking my own ass for not doing that. But I felt, you know what? Where could this title go wrong? Well, it's going wrong everywhere right now. Okay? So, 2 issues to go. Can't give it up because it's just wheel spinning at this point. 2.5 out of 5 for Masks number 6. Jennifer Blood, number 26. Basically, Jen keeps getting prodded by her new shrink and keeps getting provoked by her fellow inmates, but is, you know, is keeping away from the killing because she is biding her time really for the opportunity to escape. But we got a bit of this in the previous issue. Well, not really a bit of it, because it was so abbreviated we had no idea what was going on. But we see this strange playing out of the the old the age-old tale of the most dangerous game being played out by a very wealthy man and his son. And it appears that Jen, the reason, the escape that she has planned is indeed connected to this, that she is going to be broken out of her prison so that she can be taken to this island to be hunted. And that's very interesting there. And we have the final kind of non-confrontation between Jen and kind of the alpha dog. We still get, the creepy doctor who, seems like, again, he seems like he's on the up and up, but again, it's hard to trust anybody in the series. And the psychiatrist, here's the thing, is this issue is not written by Al Ewing. It is written by a gentleman by the name of Mike Carroll. Now, Cuber Ball is still on the ball as far as art is concerned, but one thing that Carroll does very well is that he does a really good job of staying on point, even if it feels a little choppy and a little clunky at times, like he doesn't quite have the voice yet of this book, but that he will probably sometime soon, however long he intends to write this book for. If Al Ewing is indeed off of this title, again, I think that this particular character has a somewhat limited shelf life. I'm certainly not complaining that it still exists, but it is a little bit like, it feels like it's getting a little bit drawn out now. And that's another thing that does kind of bother me about this issue, is that I'm starting to feel like, okay, well, this is getting a little bit played out here. Because, a couple issues ago when we had Jen's, we had her in jail, the first issue that she was in prison, and she seemed to die, I thought to myself, that is going to be a perfect ending to the series, because that was a great issue. And as it goes, this is still a really good issue. It's very solid, but it just doesn't grab you by the nuts like Al Ewing stuff normally does. So 4 out of 5 for Jennifer Blood number 26. I'm still interested to see where it's going, but I don't want it to get stuck in a rut. So on to the one title that we'll talk about from DC that I have already this week, and that is Justice League Dark number 19. We have Swamp Thing and the Flash become plot points. Excuse me. They guest star, that sounds better, right, in the weakest issue since Jeff Lemire took this series over. Now, I did not have very friendly things to say about Ray Fawkes on his little 2-issue run on Batgirl. Was not a big fan. And some of this feels like it's a little bit maybe influenced because it seems like they're skipping some steps here. We do have some nice beats. We have, a nice, kind of issue open with, with Deadman, slipping into, this big fat guy eating a bacon cheeseburger and going to see Steve Trevor over at Argus because Trevor basically wants him on the inside. And now we don't see Black Orchid here. Did Zatanna quit? Because we have Constantine, we have Xanadu, we have Deadman, and that's pretty much it here. And then we do have, and the thing that seems off to me about this issue is that Xanadu seems a little bit cold. I mean, not that she's necessarily the warmest of people to begin with, but she just seems off here. And, even Deadman does make a remark about her looking really good, looking perhaps better than he's ever seen her. But we do get this idea that, it seems to maybe give something of an idea that, because she knows all of these things that are going to happen. And I'm sorry, we also have Frankenstein. Always a welcome addition in any comic, to me, to have Frankenstein there. And basically, we have the House of Mystery has been stolen again. I mean, seriously, does Constantine keep that thing unlocked or what? Because it's been taken a couple times by Andrew Bennett and now by our villain here, who basically, that is the reason that Constantine enlists Swamp Thing to come in to reach out to the Green and find where exactly the House of Mystery has been taken, because it's nowhere. And, we have, again, Steve Trevor basically is wanting Deadman as kind of his inside man within the JLD, mostly because he doesn't trust Constantine. But, there's a lot of powerful players on the board here, and, this is almost like Batman shit that Steve Trevor is trying to do here, is that, he wants someone to be monitoring the rest of the group, even though these are people that, he's fought alongside, so on and so forth. And, Swamp Thing has some nice beats where he meets up with Frankenstein, of course meets up with Constantine, who summons him there. And Swampy's not too happy about that. He's quite upset about it, as a matter of fact, because he's met John Constantine in the future, in Rot World. And he knows of his, ability for, he knows of his compunction towards duplicitousness, towards lying, towards conning. And then we have some more love for Rot World as when Swamp Thing notes Frankenstein's presence and how they fought alongside together in Rot World, and how he turned out to be quite a significant ally. And so, but then we get into Swamp Thing basically being abducted, if you will, into the House of Mystery, and all of the nightmares throughout the city, state, county, whatever, world, I don't know, start coming to life. The nightmares are becoming real. The dreams are becoming real. Well, what character do we know? What really powerful character in the DC universe do we know that can make dreams, and especially nightmares, real? And that's where we get the reveal of... So, that is a really nice reveal at the end, and it was well played, and Michael Janin's art is, again, terrific. But Lemire and Fox, I think they're just moving things too fast here. And that's not to be a play on words there, because we do have this appearance by the Flash, and it's like, okay, well, this is obviously going to play a significant part in this arc. I did enjoy the love for Rot World. I'm glad there was a bit of a shout out there, and but just all in all, just this issue just felt like the momentum was so. It was like it was kind of at first, and it was like, and then it was like again. So, you just had this, this really slow open, this blast of energy to get you into it. And as a storytelling device, that doesn't always work. Now, I mean, Lemire, I do really like Jeff Lemire a lot, but he's, I think, really approaching burnout stages here because I think he's just overtaxed. I haven't been loving his stuff on Green Arrow, but I'll still read it because it is a decent read, and just seeing Andrea Sorrentino's art pretty much anywhere is a good thing. I'm still going to be following Swamp Thing, or still going to be following Animal Man. I am dropping Swamp Thing for a while. But, even that seems to be kind of running kind of low on gas. So Lemire really will need to dazzle me with something soon so that I can continue to trust him as a storyteller. Anyway, so on to picks of the week. So this would be kind of the third place book. Definitely, like I said, as far as storytelling is concerned, I do have to put I, Vampire at number 2, even though as far as significance is concerned, it's number 1. But number 3, third place for book of the week, is Young Avengers 4. Novar, Marvel Boy, and Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, finally arrive to help kick some ass and save the others in a fantastic sequence of how Novar enters, saves the day, and is standing outside on his ship after he's kind of saved the day and saved the other young people. And he's just standing there. There's this great page of McKelvey drawing him in this kind of badass pose. It's like, come with me if you want to be awesome. It's just like, oh, that's so great. And it's just, and it just goes from there. Unfortunately, Billy's spell is continuing to create a lot of bad juju around everybody. All the adults are becoming, kind of continuously becoming infected. And we have Marvel Boy Novar's parents come to visit. Of course, both of them dead, and both of them very disappointed with young Novar. And we have Loki. He seems to be up to some of his old tricks as he is whispering in Teddy's ear and gives him a possible other development, other way that the two of them fell in love, that Billy and Teddy have fallen in love. And this is something that does very much shake up Teddy. But Loki's, keeps insisting upon Billy giving Loki his powers for just 10 minutes. And, of course, nobody trusts Loki. Nobody. And Billy does not want to do this, even as these parent teams are coming up. And, the superpowered parents to the non-superpowered parents to just parents in general are all coming to kill everybody, and it does not look good. And again, this kind of these whispers that Loki is using perhaps to manipulate, we don't know yet, but ultimately he does whisper something to Billy that ultimately changes his mind, and he does give Loki his powers for 10 minutes. And what does Loki do? Poof. Vanishes. And perhaps steals their only chance to survive. God, this book and this issue are great. I mean, I'm so in love with how Gillen and McKelvey are creating this series, really kind of tapping into this youthful zeitgeist, if you will, if one can really use a word like that in relation to this book. I think you can, which is why I used it. So fuck you. But no, I mean, the core story for right now, just in these 4 issues, what seems to be the core story here is, at its heart, this book is a love story. It's a love story between Billy and Teddy. And perhaps maybe even between Kate and Novar, although maybe not so much. But obviously Novar has respect for Kate, but I don't think really sees her as a potential love interest, but more sees her as, you know, and I think they kind of almost see each other as kind of, you know, hey, let's get it on. What we used to call, in my day, macking. Now they have a much uglier word for it. There's actually 2 words combined into one. They call it fuck buddy. I don't like that term. But anyway, the story of Billy and Teddy is very much central to this book's existence right now, because what we have here, Loki, he doesn't seem to be trying to play, maybe, he doesn't necessarily seem to be trying to play Teddy and Billy against each other, but planting the idea that Teddy is actually a creation of Billy's chaos magic powers, you know, a reality bender. That's something that does not sit well at all with Billy. And Loki does see that Billy is the cause of all of this. And I don't know if he's trying to maybe turn Teddy somehow against him, but the words that he whispers into Billy's ear are just devastating. And it's just like, oh man, I mean, I want these guys to stay together. I want them to continue to love one another, but now that this seed is there, because this issue, while being tremendous fun, is also deadly serious in those moments. And that's how Gillen and McKelvey have really done such a terrific job at structuring this book and making Loki really a huge wild card in this book. Is he only in it for selfish reasons, or does he have a more heroic intent? We don't know yet, and we may never know, depending upon what happens to these guys in this next issue. But I mean, the issue looks great. McKelvey is absolutely fantastic on art here. It reads great. Gillen just really got some really great snappy stuff going on here. It moves at a very, very even clip, and it's just a fantastic read. So really a 5 out of 5 for Avengers, for Young Avengers #4. The one Avengers book that is actually working on pretty much all cylinders right now. But the book of the week ultimately has to be awarded to Ultimate Spider-Man #22. This is a simple issue. It opens with, again, Maria Hill, who has been questioning Gwen and MJ and Miles, of course, that, you know, she knows. She just knows that Miles is who he says that he isn't, even despite all of Miles's protestations and all of Gwen's and all MJ's protestations that he's not, he is. And she wants to help him. Her plan is not to throw him in prison or anything like that. Her plan is to help him, which is exactly what she does here when she finds out that Venom is actually he is heading to the hospital where Jefferson is recuperating at. And she tries to warn him not to fight him head on, to, try and fight, to do his best on the periphery. But Miles, his father's there, his mother's there, everybody's in great danger. Everybody in that hospital is in great danger. What can you do? You can only do what you have the ability to do. And that is exactly what Miles does. And it comes at an incredibly shocking and incredibly tragic cost. As Miles' mother dies at the hands of Venom. Despite the fact that Miles has helped to save the day and to remove the symbiote from the person that was wearing, because it's nobody we've ever heard of before, and we know that Roxxon is behind this. But Miles' mother, knowing that her son is indeed Spider-Man, excuse me, and does whatever she can to save her son. And it does work, but she has ultimately sacrificed her own life to do it. And her final words to her son, look at you, look at what you can do, don't ever tell your father. And she's just gone. And then Bendis twists the knife even further. And of course, any of us who have been through this in our own lives know this feeling very, very vividly. Is that Miles wakes up the next day, smells breakfast, opens his bedroom door, and who's there but Genki and his mother. And then everything floods back. And there Miles is in his bedroom, shredding his Spider-Man costume, screaming, "No more." This was the first issue of any comic since that issue of Morning Glories with Hunter and his mother that has made me cry. Honestly, tears. And the mother's death is powerful enough, but that next morning. Because I've had that feeling a pretty decent number of times since my own mother died, where I wake up and I've either just had a dream or something where I just wake up and I think to myself, I haven't talked to Mom in a while. I should call her. And then it hits you, and it hits you kind of like it's hitting you right now. And it's one of the worst feelings in the world to know that there's someone in your life that you want, but you can't ever have them again. So, Bendis he just went right he just went right for your throat with this issue, and it's a brilliantly written issue. Sarah Pichelli, this is her last issue on this book. I don't know where she's going, but David Marquez is returning to this book, which makes me extremely happy. I love Sarah Pichelli, but I do like Marquez's work even better on this title. But again, I mean, this book just, it ruined me. It flattened me. It just, I read this after coming home from work. You know, I downloaded it, and I read it, and I just, you know, my wife was here, and she's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, she wouldn't read it because she doesn't really get into the superhero stuff too much, but hopefully she might. But I told her basically what had happened, and she understood why I was crying. And why I'm kind of on the verge of crying right now. But an absolute 5 out of 5. This is a supremely powerful issue. I mean, it's just, you know, if you want the real superior Spider-Man, just read this book. Because if you're a Spider-Man fan, see, I don't know, you know, I know that, you know, Ghost Critic is not reading this book. You really should, man. Because you're missing, you know, I mean, everything that you're missing from Amazing Spider-Man right now, it's here. It exists. It still lives on in Ultimate Comic Spider-Man. And it's a lot better than Superior Spider-Man. Even though I like Superior Spider-Man for the most part, I'm willing to put up with it. And some issues are really good. But for right now, Ultimate Comic Spider-Man is, you know, it's easily the best of the Ultimate titles right now. But that could change once Josh Fialkov hops onto the Ultimates. Because I have great hopes for his run, and you know what? That's it. We're done. So this, like I said, tried to make it abbreviated. I got through, how many titles did I go through? This particular segment. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14 in an hour and a half. It's not bad. So that's it for this week. Thank you again so much for watching. Thank you for listening. If you're listening on iTunes, if this is your first time here, please subscribe. I might stick with this kind of shorter, yeah, right. No, this format in which I do just tend to kind of abbreviate some of my normally much longer descriptions of things. And we'll just go from here for right now. So we'll see what you think about this. I know that this light is on, so before I sign off, I'm going to turn it off so that I can say thank you for watching another edition of New Comics, bitches! And thank you for listening, and again, if it's your first time here, please subscribe. If it's not your first time here, then, you know, you've already subscribed, hopefully. And I did break 100 subscribers. I wanted to go on and on about that, but I didn't, because it's kind of a humble brag to me. So, but it does feel good, I have to admit. I know I won't get 100 comments, but I will at least get, you know, 7 or 8, hopefully. Because that's usually about standard. So, again, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like it, thumb it up. Dislike it, thumb it down. Comments, criticisms, complaints. I love to hear it all. Well, not the complaints so much, of course, you get the idea. But, interaction, and I'm going to put this out there. I did talk about last week, I did talk about wanting to do Google Chats. And I'm thinking, and I'm probably going to do this tonight as soon as I'm done here, that I will be tweeting some of you that if you're interested, I would like to do a Google Plus chat about Iron Man 3, which I will be seeing on either Wednesday night, or excuse me, Thursday night or Friday afternoon. So I have the day off. So, so if you're into that idea, then comment. If you don't follow me on Twitter, well, first of all, you should be on Twitter. But if you don't follow me on Twitter, it's at Donnelly92274, spelled just the way that my name is spelled. So follow me there, and you can of course tweet me. I will be tweeting some of you probably when we're done, and so we're done. So thanks again. This has been another edition of the Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly, and again, I just as a quick reminder for all of you to stay in the shadow.